Anyway, get on the soapbox. But, well, I guess it's something that we need to understand. There's going to be tribulation. There's going to be very serious tribulation. Brit Hadashah and Torah both tell us that in the end there's going to be a great falling away and people's hearts will wax cold. Those who endure till the end will be delivered. What happens when all of a sudden Christians, let's just use Christians for an example. I would use Jews, but they're used to it. Christians in this country are being arrested by the droves and beheaded by droves, or executed, or put into concentration camps, and are going through all kinds of misery for whatever reasons.
Right.
And they've expected a rapture to take place, and this rapture doesn't take place, and now they're going through the worst imaginable tribulation ever. Are these people going to say, we're going to hold on, or are these people going to say, everything that we've been taught didn't happen? There is no God. This is what doctrine can do. The doorway that leads to restoration, deliverance from Elohim, is narrow and very few find it. And we have the post-tribulationist people, that the tribulation is still going on and it comes to an end and things are desolate and they still can't survive. Then why didn't it happen? Why are we not being taken up now that all this is over?
Right.
Well, it's because you were supposed to have learned something while you were there, but you didn't learn. The Jews took the name out, so nobody can call on the name of Yahweh because nobody knows to do it. They say, those who call on the name of the Lord. What Lord? Are they calling on the name of the Lord Jesus? Okay. Hebrew, the word is very, very strict. We read in Ezekiel that it said, you can teach it, they can take it, or they cannot take it. If you teach them and they don't take it, it's on them, it's not on you. But if you don't teach them and they suffer the consequences, then it's on you. This is something for us to think about when we're studying. That everything that comes across our eyeballs, we have got to examine it. Whether it's something I hand out, or whether it's something that you read online, or the best-selling author, or something you see on TV, you have to examine it to make sure that it lines up with the word of Elohim, regardless of who gives it to you. I am nothing but a vessel to take in what my Elohim shows me. But even I am human, and I can misinterpret things. So everybody has the responsibility of keeping the word and to make sure that we're all okay. Because if I make a mistake, you have the responsibility to come to me, hey, you know, I don't agree with this. This is why. And I'll say, or I'll say, but we have these other scriptures here. So we all have the responsibility. Anyway, but to be separated. So these different denominations will separate us and draw us away from Torah. So we can see in this word, be'eretz otam, meaning in their land, a word that also refers to one's territory or space. Again, I'm my denomination, your denomination. We have 33,000 denominations, they say, of Christianity. Which territory do you belong to? We have two handfuls now, different denominations of Judaism. We have a growing two handfuls of Messianic, whatever you want to call it.
Seekers.
So everybody has their own lands. Everybody has their own isles. Why? What is their motive for this? So, in this idea, we can understand the balance of this verse that says, everyone after his tongue, after their families in their nations. It isn't that they necessarily spoke a different language, as much as it tells us today that the true instruction of Yahuwah Elohim that came off the ark was and is today degraded by everyone's own interpretation, and that those interpretations stemmed from the idols, coveting, desire, greed, being inclined to one's own ideas, lusts, and human cravings. The word for tongue here is leshan, but it comes from the root lashan, which means to slander and to accuse. So we have this idea that in Yeshua's days, the Jews didn't want to have anything to do with those Samaritans because they believed that way and we believe this way. And Yeshua was constantly on the Pharisees, calling them down, but then he has a conversation with the Samaritan woman, and he says, you worship what you don't understand. And this is a question like the question, where are you? Or where am I? That we have to also keep in mind, am I worshiping what I understand or what I don't understand? He said that restoration, redemption, deliverance comes from the Yehudim. What comes from the Yehudim? What came from Eber? What came from Shem? What came from Noah? We have a descendants up to Sinai that gave us Torah. It gave us the instruction of Elohim. We have the instruction of Elohim, and that's where our restoration and deliverance is. If we don't understand that, or if we go half-cocked into something that doesn't line up with it, then we have a problem when we're worshiping something we don't understand, and we don't have a relationship with our Elohim. And from what we read in Ezekiel, the best intentions are irrelevant. You'll still find yourself behind the gate, being told, depart from me, you worker of iniquity, I never knew you. So, in a nutshell, the next verse is based on the descendants of Ham. Now, chapter 10 also talks about the descendants of Eber. We'll save that for a separate study, but the descendants of Ham shows us a glimpse of basically atheism, agnosticism, and New Thought theology. Either there is no God, or I am God. And we get this from Nimrod, who was considered by the people to be a mighty hunter before Yahuwah. And we said, oh, God saw him as a mighty hunter. What it's saying here is that people acknowledged him before they acknowledged Yahuwah Elohim. They saw what he could do as opposed to what Elohim could do. He was esteemed more than Yahuwah, and he saw himself also as such. In the book of Yashar, the reason that they built the tower was so that they could actually declare war on the kingdom of heaven. And the book of Yashar tells us that the closer they got to the heavens, they were actually shooting arrows into the heavens, trying to do something, whatever it was they were trying to do. But this is the idea, is that I'm God, and that I can rise above, and that there is no God above me. This New Thought metaphysics teaches that we are God and we are part of the universe, and the universe is the ultimate mind, and that we are linked to the universe, and that somehow if I want more water in my cup, I can think it and the water will fill up because I can control matter. And in a sense, okay, yeah, quantum physics, it works. But we're not atoms, and we don't deal in quarks. We're human beings that are made up of atoms, but we can't split ourselves in two and be two places at one time. In a sense, yes, Yahuwah Elohim is everything, that we can hear from, we can allow that Spirit to be manifested within us to give us guidance, but we are not God. Even though Psalm says, you are Elohims, we have within us the ability to make judgments. We have the ability to have authority. We have the ability to judge, but not on the level of El Shaddai, who is Elohim, the Almighty Elohim, who is Yahuwah. So what we have going on here in Nimrod and his people is that they see themselves as God. We have no need of Yahweh Elohim. We're going to handle it ourselves, and we can reach up into the heavens ourselves. In the story, they try to build a tower to reach to heaven, and as a result, their language is confused. Again, that even those who do not believe cannot agree as to what not to believe in.
That's right.
Is a problem. We have, battles between atheists and battles between agnostics and atheists. New thought theologians can't agree on this and that. It's the same thing that Christianity goes through. It's the same thing that Judaism goes through. Because without being surrounded by Mashiach, to allow the Ruach of Elohim to guide and direct, then it's all based on carnality and flesh. What do I want to get out of it? As opposed to, how can I better my relationship with my Elohim in my lifetime? That's what we were put here for, is to have companionship with Elohim and to tend the garden. So it doesn't make a difference whether we have to go to work, a 9-to-5 job, whatever that is, or whatever. We still have a responsibility to have a relationship. So when those who do not believe cannot agree as to what not to believe in, this leads to a permanent separation from Yahweh Elohim. And in that case, the whole world was of one language and of one speech, but as we go down, as they were building the tower, what happened? Elohim said, we're going to mix it up a little bit. Because if you think that you are God, then I'm going to give you something you can try to figure out as the God that you are. And that is the very basic thing as to how to communicate with one another. We're supposed to communicate with Him. If we're supposed to communicate with Elohim, and we are Elohim, then fine. I'm going to confuse your language so that you have to communicate with one another and see how that goes. So consider the word language, which is safa. Well, which I will point out is different from the word for tongue. It's not the same word as tongue. This word comes from a similar root that means to sweep away, to snatch away, to destroy. It also means to consume. The whole earth was this way and is, like, once again, the way it was prior to the flood. Whether it be false belief or no belief, destruction is and will be the end result. Now, there's a phrase, or there's a verse that we read in Torah that Yahweh says, never again will I destroy them by a flood. It won't come from Elohim, this destruction. It will come from humankind itself. Only this time, as we will see in our studies, it will be Yahuwah that offers restoration, redemption, and deliverance. It will not be Yahuwah Elohim that destroys humankind again. Humankind will destroy humankind, but like the prophet Joel says, those who call on the name of Yahuwah will be restored, redeemed, and delivered from destruction. He sent Yeshua. He sent the means. He sent the way. Our job is to believe and receive and to build that relationship based on His Word. And just like the guy in the book of Eli, it turns out he wasn't carrying a physical copy of the book. He had memorized it. And at the end of the story, at the end of the movie, he's laying down, reciting it, and somebody is writing it all down. And at the very end, you see them putting the King James Version up on the shelf. I'm not a big King Jimmy fan, but you get the idea that we should carry the word inside. And we've studied before, we've talked about before, that the very word, the very instruction of our Elohim is to be inscribed in our hearts. And that's where we draw from, because our heart, when it's connected to the heart of Elohim, receives the instruction through his word. Anyway, any questions on this? Dive in. Well, Friday we'll continue on with Jeremiah, and we have just I think 2 or 3 more verses in Jeremiah to get through, and then we'll jump back into our regular Torah portion. We'll be getting to the end of Vayikra soon, so we'll be looking for the Midbar to come out, and then by Simchat Torah we will have completed the compilation of our Torah, so that when we go back next year and start over, we'll have a Torah compiled that we can start actually working out of, and everybody be on the same page throughout. And then as next year progresses, we'll start compiling the prophets, and then as we progress onward, we'll compile the writings. I hope to get Psalms and Proverbs put together, but it's turning out to be a little bigger thing. I've started putting together the Torah, the same thing that you have in Spanish, for the Spanish people on Sunday, because they can't find a Torah out there that's text-based like this is. So, one miracle at a time. Okie dokie. So, we have Ruth and we have Esther, so when we come across those times, that will be good to go. But like, it would have been nice to have Ezekiel, to be able to draw on Ezekiel. And it'll be really nice in 10 years when we're done with all of them. So, groovy. Well, I guess we've achieved grooviness. Remember, the first Tuesday of every month is our question and answer. Yeah, next